Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Most of our India team are traveling today, and so they're not available. However, on the flip side of that, one of our key members based in the US and a world-renowned expert on India is in India. And so on the flip side, and my wife is calling me to take the dog out. Okay. Well, so it's actually probably good timing for me to introduce Gunjan. And Gunjan, I'll probably be listening to you while I'm walking the dog. More important for all of us, Gunjan is got an extraordinary experience at every level of company size-wise and very politically connected in the sense of he knows who the movers and shakers are. He is a mover and shaker himself. And so his knowledge and experience spans across a variety of market segments. Anything that's growing in India, Gunjan is aware of. And what's very helpful for particularly American companies, but any company that's interested in doing business in India, Gunjan is familiar with it. He has a team on the ground and he's able to help them. So in today's Global Chamber cross metro meetup that you've joined today, we're going to spotlight Gunjan Bagla of Amrit, the CEO of Amrit, and let him share a little bit about what's going on in India. And now that he's in India, undoubtedly, Gunjan, over the last week or two, you've gotten some additional insights. And so we look forward to hearing from you. And then we'll go around the room with questions. So save your questions for Gunjan. And then we'd love to also hear from all of you, your perspectives and opportunities and any needs that you have. Gunjan, the stage is yours. Thank you for sharing. We miss you back here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doug. And I'll be quick, and if I get kicked out by Windows, I'll come back. So first of all, since most people on this call are in India, I can tell you that I know less about whatever you're doing and what's happening in your industry or your town, than you do. So don't think of me as an India expert. Think of me as a US India expert. Okay. My company for the last 22 years has been responsible for driving US-India trade. And as Doug said, we work in many, many different industries. So I travel to India as often as I can. And on this trip, I arrived on the 29th of January and have been in Delhi, Gurgaon separately. I stayed in Gurgaon for a few days, then Mumbai and Bangalore. And this morning I returned to Delhi. In every one of these places, the difference I see from the last trip is that infrastructure has gotten significantly better even in the last 8 months. The highways are moving, new highways and bridges are being built, new metro lines are being laid. And this is not just hyperbole, it is making a difference. Young people have been energized about India for decades. On this trip, I've noticed that middle-aged people are getting energized about India. People who were, somewhat skeptical are no longer skeptical, regardless of religion, region, or occupation. And I think that's a very good thing. I hosted India Today and Tomorrow seminar in Washington, D.C. a month ago. And we had a number of people, some from India, some from the US. And then at the end, we were asked to summarize India in one word. And the words I heard were hope, upbeat, and I said energized. Every time I come to India, I feel energized and I can see the energy among the people. That energy is going to translate into a better life for most people in India, whether they are rural or urban, whatever they do, it will be a big, big difference. And that journey has begun. What is different for all of you who are in India, thinking about the United States, is the US has opened up to India in the last year much more than it ever did. Okay, I cannot overemphasize the importance of that. The US is the world's largest economy and will continue to be so for the next 20 years or so or more. India is now a partner in the journey of the US towards using democracy for good. Okay, They used to say this for the last 50 years, but they did not really mean it. The alliance, the economies of China and the US are still tied more closely than the economies of US and India. But there's a determined push on the part of the Department of Defense in the US, the Department of State for the External Affairs Ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, as they call it, the Department of Commerce. All of them are working in line to develop the business and cultural relationship with India. Now, I live in Los Angeles, and the city of LA is very excited to host the 2028 Olympics. And all of you should be very excited because cricket will be featured in those Olympics. Okay, so we expect maybe 1 million tourists from India will show up in Los Angeles, where I live. Now that's still 5 years away, but the momentum for that is building up, and Air India has announced a non-stop flight from Delhi to Los Angeles, which will start later this year. So a lot of good things are happening in all spheres. I'm sure all of you are aware that General Electric is going to partner with HAL, and the engines for the Tejas light combat aircraft will be assembled in India. The US would not have permitted that to happen, as little as 2 years ago. Okay, so for those of you, and I don't usually talk about politics, but I think this is important. It's an election year in both countries. President Biden has been more good for India than previous presidents in every way, other than say when Clinton changed the dialogue. And it is under the Biden administration that the assembly of jet engines has been approved. The drones, the armed drones that India is going to buy, $3 billion worth, will also be assembled in India. These are the world's most sophisticated drones. And if there is ever a conflict on either of the Indian borders, you can be sure that drones will be part of the success of whichever country prevails. So it's wonderful that American technology will be deployed in India in a way that has not been permitted by the US government for, really since Richard Nixon's time. So all these are very upbeat things. Now, in a matter of routine business, I was in Bangalore yesterday. I cannot mention the companies I visited, but there's excellent preclinical research going on for American companies in India. I visited a sheet metal vendor that is absolutely world-class. They're making a very routine product, but they are absolutely able to compete with China on the world stage. It's just that they haven't tried yet. And, we are hoping to open up opportunities for them to be able to export their products to the US. So I want to stop there and let you ask any questions. And if I vanish, it's not anything that I'm doing deliberately. So I think Doug is walking his dog. So please, anybody jump in. Oh, Doug's still there. Why is there a coffee cup behind your head?
Yeah, I am walking the dog with a coffee cup behind my head. Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic information. What questions do you have? I have a variety of questions, but please, audience, go ahead. What are you hearing, and what questions do you have? Anybody want to jump in? While we're waiting. Hey, hi Andre. Thank you for joining. Oh, did I hear someone?
Hello.
Oh, hey Andre, good to see you. Thank you for joining today. Did you have any questions for Gunjan?
So, Gunjan, thanks for the speech. I was hearing last 5 minutes of it. I just arrived back, so I'm a little bit late. Sorry for that. So, but Gunjan, frankly speaking, I have my experience of working with technological adoption, and there is one huge gap here. So basically, most likely you will not see that in the ecosystem of Bangalore. But technically speaking, we can see that technological adoption of the, let's say, hardware technology, of, let's say, defense technology, though Bangalore is partially of that cluster also. So, is not happening with that speed, which Indian side is predicting. So there are two bottlenecks here. First one that of course there are natural regulational slowdowns, and we can say any facilitation talks are like for a year and a half, like normally it's okay. So but what do you see how to boost that process from the side of the receptivity of both the sides, foreign partners who do TOT and like local guys who are taking this as a recipient? Thank you.
Yeah. So if you see any slowdown right now, I think it's because the Indian government, the leaders are focused on what's going to happen in April, most likely, which is the parliamentary elections. Okay. It's an enormous exercise, and this government is determined, it seems, to exceed its parliamentary vote count compared to last elections. And they're putting a tremendous amount of their energy in it. And of course, the people who are not so happy with this government are also putting a tremendous amount of energy in other issues that to slow it down. So I'm sitting here in New Delhi, and right now the borders between Delhi and Haryana, I know the neighboring state, have been closed because of the agitation of the farmers, which is happening, specifically at this time. My guess is because of the elections coming up. They want to attract attention, they want to extract their pound of flesh. So I think all efforts are focused on that. They don't want to do anything that would rock the boat and be perceived as negative by any section of the electorate. That's my guess. Now, if you had a specific question about a particular situation, then maybe I can address it.
Yeah, there is a very, we can say specific point I'm addressing here. So not because there is a natural slowdown circle, but let's say there was a solution about the package of technologies. Let's say in defense, as the easiest topic to discuss between the US, because I kind of know both the sides, like Russians and US tech. So basically, about the set of technologies that should be moving to India within a certain speed. So pretty same story is happening almost in any area. Why India is growing rapidly? Because of that consumer boom, increasing of tax deliverables, and basically inter-India globalization, we can say. This is happening clearly, and of course get back of the comeback of the
slow down,
foreign
Andre. I can't keep up with you. So what is your specific question?
Yes,
what is
specific question. It is growing, even when it is growth, it is growing less than predicted. So basically, it means that there are bottlenecks that can be removed. So and what bottlenecks that can be removed? Overall, you foresee as an advisor what we can do on the ground to make this process happening closer to what was predicted.
Yeah. So as far as business issues are concerned, Andre, the progress happens in India's states. The federal government can pass some regulations, they can recommend what happens in each state, but it's the state governments that make those decisions. And one of my good friends is at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. Okay, you should really look at the CSIS website. They actually track the progress of various states across the country. Month to month, they publish a newsletter. And they're seeing that prior to general elections, reforms generally slow down. Okay, they count the reform state by state. And some states have done very well over the years, but I asked them, for example, which states are the surprise in recent months or recent years. And one of the states they mentioned was the state of Orissa, which is doing a lot of reforms, which is, usually doesn't get the limelight, but they literally count the number of changes in rules and laws and investments coming in. They're very upbeat about what's happening in Orissa. They're very upbeat about what is happening in Assam, of all places. The northeastern states often get ignored. Now, this government is paying attention to the Northeast, as you've seen with some of the recent activity. But certainly they don't get the same attention that a Gujarat or a Maharashtra, or Tamil Nadu or Karnataka will. At the national level, I think in the sector of defense, it's really the global activity that is probably having the Indian government be very measured about what they do, starting with the activities in the tension in Ukraine, and then what happened in Israel in October. The Indian government has taken a very balanced stand. They support Israel militarily, they oppose terrorism, but at the same time, the Indian government has offered to humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. And some of my American friends, I know, are upset about that. But India's stand has been very clear. Terrorism is bad. India suffered more from terrorism than almost any other country. Okay, so they oppose that, but at the same time, they want to help the civilians who are caught in this battle. And I think at this time, if they make any big decisions in defense, the world will see it in the light of these two big conflicts that are going on. And so I think they're being measured. Again, I don't have any inside information, but I did speak this morning, in fact, to somebody who used to be at a critical position inside India's Ministry of Defense. And I think he would agree with what I'm saying. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Who else has a question, please? Welcome, Monica. Welcome, Santosh. Welcome, everyone. And hello, Chaco. How are you?
I'm doing well, Doug. Thank you. Gunjan, my name is Chaco. I lived in the US for a couple of years in Phoenix. I was a graduate of Arizona State University. Moved back to India, to my hometown, Cochin, to start a software company here. We are at about 120 people at the moment. And my question is around services, right? The trade of services between the US and India. And how can we as companies in this forum, right, do much more to enable a lot more trade of services between the countries?
Well, I have traveled to Kerala many times on business, and I always point to my American clients that if you look at India carefully, you will see amazing paradoxes. And Kerala is one of those paradoxes that puzzles the heck out of most Americans. Here is a state that has had the highest literacy for decades. Here is a state where the Communist Party is very strong. And here is a state where companies are thriving. That formula isn't supposed to work in the American mindset, but yet it does. Okay, I've been to Trivandrum. I've been up and down the state for business, and it's amazing what I've seen there. One of our clients is a huge electronics distributor. Their largest customer is a company in Kerala that almost no one knows about. I can't mention the name, but you can guess whom it might be. And they keep their customers very secret. But one of the largest U.S. companies is their OEM customer for products that are exported worldwide. So as far as your question about software, I mean, this is a very well-defined pathway to success for Indian companies. Now, if you're in software services, there are 10,000 other Indian companies also in software services. So you have to find a niche for yourself that you are much better at than anyone else. And it can't just be AI, because there isn't a software company on the planet that doesn't say they're doing a lot of work in AI anymore. So that alone doesn't do it. You've got to have an industry focus or some other focus that differentiates you. I get approached by software services companies all the time. And they'll look just like any other software services company from India. So that's a challenge then, then you start competing on price and price alone, and that is a slippery slope downhill, okay? Because you need to have hefty margins to be able to support the staff that you need to hire, and now the staff that you need to train. Because many of the old programmers will not be needed anymore because AI will write that code for you, right? So computer scientists have to really learn new skills and get ahead. So a time of change is a time for nimble companies to be able to move ahead. The large service providers are worried about what will they do with 10,000 programmers that they don't need anymore. How are they going to train them, right? Whereas a small company can be far more nimble and approach it, in that manner. So that's what I would suggest. You use your size as an advantage and attach yourself to some customers that find you indispensable. Beyond that, without knowing specifics about your company, I can't really say much more. But I think this is a golden time for nimble software companies out of India. The big guys will do well, but they're going through big crises right now.
Hey Gunjan,
Anyone else? And Windows is being very kind. They have not rebooted my
Gunjan.
machine. So
Hi Gunjan, this is Srihari here. I wanted to introduce another businessman called Darshit in the call today.
hi, Darshit.
Doug, hey Doug, I thought Darshit would be a visitor so that he knows the power of Global Chamber. So Darshit has been in they have a family business in the kitchenware and a lot of electronic items. India has been their major market. But one unique thing what they did is the 220 volt mixer, the appliances that work in India, they have ingeniously made it to 110 volt and now exporting to Canada. So I thought it would be good to introduce him on this forum because he is looking to export a lot of goods that they're producing. So Gunjan, I just wanted to take this opportunity also to ask that Indians now innovating and doing ingenious methods to kind of provide good quality export electronic items compared to China. What do you see? Where would Indian companies kind of come in here and also introducing Darshit here.
It's nice to meet you, Darshit. Where are you located?
I'm located from Bangalore, sir.
Bangalore, okay.
Basically from Rajasthan.
My family is originally from Rajasthan. If you see my last name, you can probably guess that. Yeah.
Yes.
So in the field of electronics today, if you look at the consumer market, since you mentioned 220 volt, are you making consumer products?
Yes, kitchen items.
Kitchen items. Okay, kitchen electronics.
Mixer grinders, wet grinders, all those products.
So if I go into Walmart or Best Buy or Costco or any electronics or kitchen implement store, or I go on Amazon.com, almost everything I will find is made in China. Doesn't matter what the brand is. Okay, Chinese companies have bought defunct American brands and don't advertise that. I mean, if I buy a GE fridge in the US, refrigerator, it's actually made in China, and the Chinese company has bought the GE brand for refrigerators. Okay, so you think it's a GE, but it has, it's just got the label GE, right? So brace yourself for some very serious competition from the Chinese products. What I have seen happen, there is an opportunity for you. Okay, through the pandemic, prices went up, deliveries slowed, and quality has plummeted. Okay?
Yes.
So, I own a couple of properties, and the microwave ovens, the dishwashers, the washer dryers, they start failing after 2 or 3 years. Okay, I mean, and Doug will testify to this. There's a brand in the US called Maytag, which has built its brand on our stuff doesn't fail. Our repairmen sit idle. That used to be their very famous commercial. Maytag is now owned by a Chinese entity. And I tell you, it's not that old Maytag, it's not the most reliable set of appliances anymore. So if I were you, I would somehow try to emphasize new features for expensive stuff. If it's a blender, the blender costs less than a pizza. So nobody cares in the US, sadly, if it breaks down. It's bad for the environment and all of that, but these handheld things, don't really have a financial impact. But if you can add some innovative features, or you can do something that makes it more attractive, then I think there would be a possibility. But for anything more expensive, if I were you, I would really emphasize reliability and make sure you can stand behind it. Okay, I'll give you an example of an automobile company that entered the US many years ago, and they were the joke at that time. Okay, it was a Korean company making cars, and people said these cars are garbage. Okay, they don't work right, they fail. There was a popular late night television show that used to mock them week after week after week. Okay, the brand I'm talking about is Hyundai. Okay. Hyundai recognized that. I know the head of marketing who ran Hyundai at that time. So they offered a 10-year warranty. Okay, they offered a 10-year warranty. The quality that they offered over 3 or 4 years began to equal Toyota. Okay, so the only battle left was that the American buyer still had the impression of the old Hyundai, right? But over the last decade, they have overcome that. In India, they never had that problem because when they entered India, there was no such issue, right? So I think you really have to look at how to do something that the Chinese won't or can't do. Now, fortunately, the US government is your friend today. Okay, any success that can happen, where they can highlight, a company from India, they are happy to do so, right? But the consumer doesn't really care where the product is made. Okay, they will buy your product because it is better or it does something. There's some characteristic that they care about. Okay, so that's what you have to think about when you're looking at a consumer product. The other battle you'll have is how do you get into a Walmart or a Best Buy or a Costco? Okay, and I would start with Costco, frankly. Okay, Walmart is very hard to get into. Every company I know who's successful at Walmart has a full-time employee sitting in this place that most people have not heard of called Bentonville, Arkansas, where Walmart is headquartered. Okay, so that's hard for a company sitting in India to do, right? But Costco, based out of Seattle, looks for interesting products that are high quality, and they are willing to consider new ideas, I think, more willingly.
I just
Okay,
want
and
to
other
put a
people on
point
this
over
call may
here.
know more about these consumer retail chains, but my guess would be that starting with Costco would be the right thing to do. People go into Costco, they buy anything that is there, they know it won't be bad. And Costco offers a no questions asked return policy, So that
Thank
reassures the
you,
American customer. Okay.
Darshit. Did you have a follow-up and any response to what Gunjan mentioned?
Yes, I just want to highlight a one point on, because I'm a seller in Flipkart and Amazon from past 8 years in India. So we are selling around 500 mixer grinders on exclusive for a USA market. The people from India are taking this product and they are using it in the USA. And one more thing about the Walmart is, the Walmart is giving a training to the Indian sellers to export to the 17 countries.
Yeah.
They are helping the Indian sellers to export, all MSME sellers. They are helping us to export in the other 17 countries. They are helping us also. One amongst them, even we are into that group over there.
Wonderful. Take full advantage of that. Walmart is
And
doing this for economic as well as political reasons, as you can imagine.
yes.
Okay.
So, and one more thing is, if you compare this China mixer grinders and Indian mixer grinders, it's very difficult to match it, because in USA market, the Preeti is the biggest brand which is selling around yearly 70,000 pieces of mixer grinders over there.
Yeah.
Because if you see, major of the customers are of South India over there, and in South Indians place, a weekly or twice they use it, dosa, idli, everything they use it. For them, they need a chutney. In Chinese mixer grinder, you can't prepare a chutney in the Chinese mixer grinder. That's where the Indian mixer grinders play a bigger role.
If you're going to target the ethnic market only, okay, 1% of the American population is of Indian origin. Okay, if you take not just Indian origin, you take people from Africa and Central America who have some Indian blood, who might also have moved to the US, you still won't come up to more than 2%, right? That's a fine market, but you don't go to Costco and Walmart for that. Okay, you might want to use an ethnic approach and go to the Indian chains. Okay, so that's also a possible strategy, but. I mean, Walmart does cater to niche markets, no, but just getting their attention, for, the thing with Walmart is that the minimum order quantity that they'll want to place might overwhelm your production capacity on day one, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind, that
Yes.
that's one of the things they evaluate for every vendor. Can you really meet our demand? Because if you
One
can't,
of my
it's a
friend have
rounding error
received
and they
around 2
don't want
lakh
to be
pieces of
bothered with
order.
it. Yeah. And again, Costco is much more kind about these things. Okay. But
Thank
you
you for
might
the
just
conversation.
approach Patel Brothers or some of the Indian retail chains, which mostly sell groceries, but it would be an easy ad for them to offer these mixer grinders that you're talking about.
Yes, we
Okay.
are coming up with the coffee makers, roti makers, and the choppers where you can do an atta grinding also and chopping also. That will be used for even Americans also over there, chopping purpose and everything.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, good luck to
Harold,
you. I'd love to hear more about, as you succeed. Please keep me posted. I may be able to highlight you in some articles that I write from time to time.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, we're happy to connect you with Gunjan. And then, did I hear this was your first meeting with Global Chamber?
Yes, this was my first meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
Doug. I felt he might be a valuable, member. So I just got him as a visitor, and I'll connect him. I've already connected him to Santosh. I'll connect you to Doug as well.
Okay. Actually,
Thank you.
Santosh has already emailed the three of us, I think. So I'm connected, and so I can make the connection to Gunjan as well. So thank you for that to both of you, including Santosh. Santosh, did you have any follow up as well?
Hey, Doug, thank you very much. I'm sorry I missed meeting Gunjan when he was in Bangalore,
Oh my
and
God.
I was
Okay.
just back and forth on my travels and my shipments here. So I'm currently not in Bangalore. I'm in Shimoga, which is 350 kilometers away from Bangalore. So I missed meeting him. I hope that the next time he comes, I should be able to meet him.
Okay. Yeah. And next time you're in Los Angeles too, you can meet him there as well.
Of course.
Uh,
Of course.
any
So,
response to what you heard earlier discussed? Uh, oh,
So yeah, I mean that's what I missed meeting him. He had approached me to connect with, and I guess yesterday we had a talk with Sri Hari that he wanted to refer someone. So he just brought it, and today we are here.
okay. Very good. Who else has questions and thoughts about the conversation, please?
Is there anybody from Mumbai on this call?
Anyone from
Harold?
Mumbai?
I see Harold
Harold?
raising his hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
Harold, you're raising your hand.
I'm in Mumbai right now.
Oh,
You're
you are?
visiting Mumbai or you live in Mumbai?
No, I'm in the US, but I'm in Mumbai right now.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it. Well, last week, Manoj Gursahani, who leads the Mumbai chapter, held a wonderful event. He opened up his home. Doug, you have to come to India to meet Manoj. I think you're brothers from different mothers. He is extremely well connected, extremely gracious. He brought together 20 people into his home, and I think 16 of them hadn't met any of the others in the room.
Wow.
And he was able to connect everybody. I mean, I was there, I talked about my stuff, but the dynamics of that room was just amazing. And this is really, again, Doug didn't ask me to say this, but the power of Global Chamber is this kind of networking, okay, where you can make connections with people and you may not see any value today, but a month from now, a year from now, you might suddenly find that you need exactly what they have. And Doug, I was able to connect one of the attendees to Jeff Dar, our leader in Los Angeles, and he's a lawyer. Uh, Jamshed is a lawyer in Mumbai and has some very similar interests compared to Jeff, who is very active in Los Angeles. So I was able to do that right away. But there's a number of other people in the various industries that he brought together. So it was a wonderful experience. And I hope that in my future trips to India, we'll see things like that in each of the big metros, whether it's the Delhi NCR or Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. There's enough people out there in each of these cities, with this kind of mindset. So I can be your roving ambassador, Doug.
Yeah, Gunjan Manoj embraces the spirit and the execution of what we look for with Global Chamber. And so when I saw the picture of all of you together there, I felt number one, how amazing that must have been. And then number two, I was really sad that I don't think any of the Bimrachkas came, which are some old friends of mine, and they're in Mumbai. Their place, I think, is very close to Manoj. So hopefully next time, and maybe I can join the next time. So thank you. Harold, did you have any other thoughts or questions based on what you heard here today?
I think it's been very interesting. My only thought to Gunjan and all the delegates who is on this call, that even if we can a little bit focus on human labor trafficking, because there are a lot of people, like I was in Gujarat, people are crazy to come to the US. A lot of people have died this year while crossing the border, and they're paid in the tune of almost 1 crore. And that is the reason I'm here. I'm basically here for my Bollywood biopic blockbuster film, which is in progress. But it's my humble request that if you all can even focus on Gunjan, even talk on that subject, especially of the human rights that don't come to the US undocumented or through the borders, because there are a lot of people, they're just trying to go through that. And we are organizing a conference on May 2nd, 2024 at Cincinnati. It's at National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. And I would like Larry Hart, I think he's on this call, he's in the US. He's on the UI Eyes Open International Board of Directors. If he can share some thoughts on that conference. Larry, if you're still there.
I
Thank
am
you.
still here. And thanks,
Larry.
Harold. That's going to be an extraordinary event because we have some really, really special guests coming. I can't think of his name. What is Yost again? He's the Attorney General,
Yost,
I think, of
Dave
Ohio,
Yost,
right?
Attorney General. Dave Yost,
Yeah.
Attorney General.
And this wonderful lady, Miss Dixon, Linda Dixon from the Department of Defense. So what's really amazing about Harold is he's made some absolutely astonishing connections because of his story, all the way up to Martin Sheen producing this movie that includes Harold's story of being human trafficked from Mumbai to here in Cincinnati, of all places. And what we're really trying to do with his nonprofit organization is help spread the word and find strategic partners that can reinforce this awareness effort around human trafficking. So it's something that I've become quite passionate about since realizing that Harold lives just a few miles from me and our kids attended the same school. So anyway, this event will really showcase the foundation and help spread the word, and I think also unite some of the like-minded people here in Ohio. So back to you, Harold. Thank you.
Could you let us
Thank you.
know it's not on our calendar when it is? Did I hear May 2nd or 22nd?
May 2nd. It's a Thursday.
Okay. Just send us a link or point us in the right direction, and we're happy to help with that.
Yeah, that just got finalized, about 2 weeks ago. So we'll get that to you guys for sure. Thank you.
Cool. Very good. A lot of immigration issues right now, a lot of cross-border labor issues. Fortunately, a lot of it can be done virtually. Gunjan, we kind of touched a little bit around it with Andre at the beginning of this call, because he's from Russia. When I met Andre, I think he was in Russia. There are a couple people actually that I met in Russia that now are involved with Global Chamber, but Andre ended up in Pune, and Dasha Shaninya, she ended up in Miami, and now she's in San Francisco with the war outbreak. How are the geopolitics of things impacting trade. You mentioned about President Biden and his support for India. That sounds like it's positive, and probably that to some extent might be coming out of the geopolitics. I'm not sure. How do you view all of that, and what are some of the opportunities based on that you see in the next year or two?
You're asking me, Doug?
Yeah, sorry, Gunjan.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the alignment between the US and India is being driven primarily by Xi Jinping of China.
Yeah.
Both countries see China as a significant threat. Okay. And you and I will be together in Phoenix next week, where the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation is about to spend $20 billion to build a major fab. And that is being driven in part by the worry that, at some point, again, Xi Jinping in his New Year's address made it very clear, Taiwan is a part of China, will be a part of China forever, right? He's just looking for the right opportunity, despite what the American think tanks who have supported the China alignment for the last 40 years, despite what they might say, that threat is very real to planners both in New Delhi and Washington. So that's what's driving it now. India and Russia have been close for, really since the 60s. But in 1971, there was a, huge pivot towards the Soviet Union in India. And, most of you are too young to remember or care about what happened in 1971. But the Soviet Union came to India's support when no other major country would. Okay? And it led to the creation of Bangladesh. The US policy at that time did not support a democracy like India. And both Kissinger and Nixon went out of the way to support Pakistan. So that shaped Indian thinking towards the Soviet Union. And that friendship has continued, okay, even today. Most of India's defense armaments are of Soviet and Russian origin, okay? So if there is a conflict that India will face today or next year or 5 years from now, it will still be a lot of Russian-made, armaments and weapons that will be up front, and India depends on Russian supply for, munitions as well as repairs. India and Russia are collaborating on an intercontinental missile. Okay. Andre, you can tell me the name of that. I'm blanking out. It's BrahMos.
BrahMos. Yeah. And
Named after.
This was the project of almost 10 years in development.
Yeah.
So it was actually the people of Soviet generation back, from my country, Belarus. Some of the Ukrainians were part of that. It's a very fun story, but BrahMos is, we can say, it has Soviet legacy in that.
Yeah. So to come to today's situation, in India bought a tremendous amount of oil from Russia since the start of the Ukraine war. That has come down a little bit. India hasn't made any big defense purchases, new equipment, but they've slowed down, as far as I can tell, the collaboration on the 5th generation fighter. Okay, but I think the US planners have come to accept that Russia and India will continue to be friends regardless of, any relationship with the United States. So the two are not incompatible in the mind of New Delhi. Okay.
Okay.
And I think
where I was going with the question, and that's all great information and background. It reminded me also, I think it might have been you who sent me an article about when Henry Kissinger died, that he was horrific. He was an idiot. He was so horrible with his policy toward India, which led to all the things that you're talking about. So it was Nixon and Kissinger, and how they treated Indira Gandhi at the time was offensive and terrible. And so, yeah, hey, guess what? Nixon and Trump are idiots and horrific leaders and bad, influence on the world. And so we just need to kind of move past it. I'm much happier with President Biden, as probably you are as well. What then are the opportunities, and how do they go about it? So what I took from that, your presentation at the beginning, was that there may be incentives perhaps on the US side to invest in India? And is there a more open door through either the State Department or the Department of Commerce on the US side for Indian companies coming into the US? What are some of the practical results of the
Sure.
overriding geopolitical situation?
Yeah. So when Biden was in India in September, they released a 54-point, memorandum of things that they wanted to work together, and some of them are quite groundbreaking. So the two countries are going to collaborate in exchanging information about the defense startups in each country. Okay, the US is bringing India into what they call SOSA, the Security of Supply Arrangement, which is an initiative started by the US to deal with unforeseen circumstances such as a pandemic or a war, where they say, if we need something from your country, you will prioritize us in supplying it. Okay. So SOSA, and ICET is the other agreement, ICET. So the US has SOSAs with many, many countries, and they've just brought India into that fold. The ICET is a specific agreement between the US and India around security, around advanced technologies, around collaboration, Doug, on semiconductor world. So the US is saying we actively want to move the supply chains away from China and towards India. So a friend of mine, I think I mentioned this before, is at Micron Technology, and they're investing $3 billion to move their assembly, test, and packaging into the state of Gujarat, which is where the Prime Minister is from. Just yesterday, I saw an announcement from Tower Semiconductor, of Israel, that they might build a fab in India. There's a lot between them saying that and it actually happening. So I won't make any bold claims next week in Phoenix about that, but it's certainly something to keep in mind. So there's a very active effort from the very departments you mentioned, state, which is the foreign ministry of the US, defense, as well as the Department of Commerce, to bring things together. I was in New Delhi at the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, where Ambassador Garcetti gave a talk, and he was very much focused on all of these factors that we just mentioned. Okay, and you see a steady flow of Biden cabinet members to India. Gina Raimondo has been there. Catherine Tai was there 3 weeks ago, the US Trade Representative. Lloyd Austin, the Defense Secretary, has visited India, I think, 3 or 4 times before he fell sick now, of course. And the Treasury Secretary has been into India because they feel like if the Chinese stop buying US treasuries, who's going to pick up the slack? And they think that India might be willing to buy a lot more of the US debt than it has been until now. So all of those things are coming together. Now, this does mean that as India puts more attention towards the US, some people are concerned that there may be less attention to Russia. And Russia has already made some moves to work with China and to work with Pakistan. But these are small matters. These are not going to affect the friendships between India and Russia or India and the US. I hope that helps. I've been up since 3 a.m. today, so maybe I'm not being as coherent as I want to be at this time. You have to forgive me.
You should do it more often. You're very coherent. Does because I know you get up later, and so we're very happy that you're there and you can attend in the evening. And so thank you for taking the time. Does anybody else have any maybe final question, because we're just about at the end of the hour? Any other thoughts? Anybody have not a chance to chat yet? Looks like Oh, Nihi, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. And Shankar, I don't know, are you available to say hi?
Yes,
We were
Doug.
just talking about Gujarat, actually, as you probably heard.
Yeah, very much. Yes, Doug. I'm very much absorbing all what Gunjan has been speaking, and I told Manoj a big sorry because I was actually meaning to meet Gunjan. But having said that, this is the chance I got to hear from the man himself. So thank you very much. I got a broader perspective of what Gunjan does at a high level. I was trying to see what is Gunjan's plan on bringing the India-US corridor together. If we can play a small role from Gujarat, I would be very keen to, be part of that journey. So Gunjan, at some point, I'd like to connect with you and see what I can be of help or support or connect with anything that you haven't covered as yet, let's say, in Gujarat.
Sure. I mean, I started traveling to Gujarat on business 15 years ago. And for those of you who are not familiar with the transformation that might be happening in Gujarat, I think it's fair to say that Gujarat will be the first state to transform into a first world environment, with all the things that are firing in Gujarat. And this happened well before Modi became prime minister. Okay, so the kind of factories that I've seen, the kind of development of the road infrastructure, and it's all over Gujarat. It's not just Ahmedabad and Baroda and Surat. That's the beauty of the development in Gujarat. There's 20 cities that are developing, and I think that's also a benchmark for other states to follow, where sometimes the focus is, in Telangana is on Hyderabad, which is great, but that creates some political tension in the state. But yeah, I don't know what else I can bring to Gujarat. I think Gujarat is firing on all cylinders, and every company that wants to do anything, it seems, is being driven to Gujarat. So you guys are doing very well.
Yeah,
And
Gujarat has got a
the
great
cities are getting
history
beautiful
of,
too.
yeah, US India, US Gujarat has had a connection even before ever. That there are already many Gujaratis in United States, so we can only do better the way it is going. I'm very connected with Gift City and many of the other corridors here, and United States, and there are a lot of companies setting themselves up, bankers coming in. So if there's anything that can be co-created, I'm very happy to do that, and hope to see you next time you're in India.
Absolutely. So for
what
those
is
of
your
you who are not familiar with Gujarat, if I may just add
Sure.
that, if you, in the textile sector, Gujarat leads. If any of you, today's Valentine's Day, and if any of you bought a diamond for your Valentine, chances are that diamond was polished and processed in a city called Surat in Gujarat. Okay? So Gujarat plays a role, in the hearts of Americans in ways that most Americans don't realize, because any diamond you buy, is likely been processed in Surat. So there's a lot of connections with a lot of pharmaceutical companies from Gujarat are successful, in the US as well. And again, you don't see their names, but like Zydus and, Alembic and so many others. Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
What's next for you, Gunjan? When's your next trip to India? And then what other final comments do you have before we close the room?
I think, Doug, you should plan on a global chamber trade mission to India in 2025 or 2026. I think there'll be plenty of people, within the global chamber membership who will want to engage with India far more deeply than they do. And if any of you are not going to be in Phoenix next week, then I'll put in a plug for the semiconductor conference. You can join virtually. You may have to be up at a little bit of an odd hour, but hey, I do that sometimes, so why can't you? It's going to be a great event.
It's 1:30 to 5:30 Pacific time. So the end point is what, about 7 a.m. So, it's 3 to 7 or something like that in the morning in India. So that's not, and on Saturday. So that's not so good, but it'll be recorded. So I encourage, if you happen to be in a bad time zone, just not a bad time zone, but in it for that particular event, not a very good time. Please register, and you'll get a recording afterwards. And there'll be a conversation. And you reminded me that I've got to get Tal's contribution about the Israel side of things within the conference. But there'll be people speaking on most of the countries where semiconductor is a factor, including all across Asia, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, etc. And Gunjan will be the voice for India. Thank you so much for taking the time today. You're just such an extraordinary resource. We appreciate you on every level. When do you get back?
I reach Los Angeles on Sunday morning.
Okay. Well, very good. We'll see you soon and next week, and have a safe trip.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for bearing with me. And if you disagree with me, please let me know. Okay. That's how I learn.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.